Hello everyone, and welcome to this segment of our school board candidate video series. And on this segment, we'll be focusing on laws school board candidates need to know. And joining me for that discussion is Kelly Hopkins. Kelly is our Associate Executive Director for Board Services and our Corporate Counsel for MSBA. And also Mike Reed, who is our Associate Executive Director for Advocacy for MSBA. And Mike also is a former Director of Compliance for the Missouri Ethics Commission. And thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate it. Kelly, let's start with you if we could. What are the requirements for a school board candidate in Missouri?
Well, for most school board candidates, they need to be a citizen of the United States, a resident taxpayer of the district. Now, in urban districts, instead of resident taxpayer, it says voter of the district. They needed to have resided in Missouri for 1 year, at least 1 year, immediately preceding the election. They need to be at least 24 years old. They have to be current on any state income taxes, personal property taxes, municipal taxes, and real property taxes on the residence under which they're registering. And if you are a past or present officer of a corporate office or fee office, you have to make sure that all monies due the state from that fee office have been paid. You can't be a registered sex offender, nor be required to register as a sex offender, and you cannot have been found guilty or pled guilty to a felony under federal law, to a misdemeanor under federal law, or to a felony in Missouri, or in any other state if that would have been a felony in Missouri.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned urban school districts, Kelly. That's a different category than the vast majority of school districts in the state, right?
Yes, there are 7 urban school districts in the state of Missouri, and we've actually provided a list of those districts that is showing on the slide right now.
All right. On the issue of personal finance disclosure, what do the candidates need to know about that?
Well, the first thing they need to know is that if the school district where they are a board candidate has an operating budget of less than $1 million, then they don't have to file a personal financial disclosure statement. And otherwise, they may have to file a personal financial disclosure statement. A lot of that will depend on what policy the board has adopted in that district. If the district has a policy on file with the Missouri Ethics Commission and has gone through all of the requirements of the law, then the candidates may have to file, but they would be entitled to file what we call a short form. And I do mean short. There's 2 questions. If the district has not adopted such a policy, then the candidate would be required to file the long form, which is much longer. I think it's 10 questions.
12 questions.
12 questions, okay. And you disclose a lot more information. So the candidates will be instructed by the district as to what they have to do. They will be provided a copy of their notice of obligation to potentially file a financial disclosure statement. They'll be given a copy of the board policy for that particular district.
So Mike Reed, in school board campaigns, occasionally the candidates will raise money for those campaigns. Do we have campaign contribution limits in our state now?
Well, that's a very good question. The state of Missouri, the voters of Missouri adopted Amendment 2 this past year, and that amendment limited the amount of money that candidates can receive in running for office. But that it appears that that amendment speaks only to people running for statewide office, the state Senate, and the State House of Representatives. People running for local office, including school boards, are not mentioned in that amendment. So it appears that we have no contribution limits for people running for school board.
Mm-hmm. So do candidates have to form campaign committees?
Well, yes, probably. It depends if the people decide to spend more than $1,000. If you spend more than $1,000, and that includes spending your own money, or take more than $325 from any one individual contributor, then you must form a committee. A committee is very simple to form. You just file a statement with the Missouri Ethics Commission, open a bank account, file the statement with the Missouri Ethics Commission. And the reports are simple. It says who gave you the money and where did it go. But you must meet certain requirements, file deadlines. You have to file this more than 30 days prior to the election, and that there are reporting deadlines 40 days before the election, 8 days prior to the election. in 30 days after the election or prior to being sworn into office.
Sometimes, of course, Mike, in campaigns, the candidates raise money for promotional materials, signs, and so forth, and there are certain rules for those materials as far as what disclaimer that must be on those.
Yes. Any printed matter must contain the disclaimer "paid for by." It's very simple, and it's all signs, posters, advertisement, radio, television. Any printed matter, any of that kind of advertisement must say "paid for by." If it's paid for by the committee, the law is specific. It must say "paid for by the committee to elect John Jones, Mary Jones, treasurer." So the name of the candidate and the treasurer must be on there. If it's paid for by the individual candidate himself, it must say "paid for by John Jones, candidate." So there are very different ways to do it. There are several other iterations with that. If more than 5 people do it, you have to do it, have a list of those people. But everything that is printed must contain the "paid for by" disclaimer. And that is one of the most complained about items that the Missouri Ethics Commission looks at.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, Mike, that sometimes opponents in a campaign will file complaints with the Missouri Ethics Commission on those sorts of things. So our candidates want to avoid that if possible.
That's right. That's the easiest thing to avoid, and that is, again, the biggest thing that jumps out at people is who paid for this.
Kelly, do candidates need to be aware of conflicts of interests, especially related to a business they might own?
They certainly do. One of the reasons we file personal financial disclosure statements is to make sure that the people running our school districts do not have business entanglements with the district. And being a school board member can impact your business. If the candidate or the candidate's spouse or a dependent child owns a business, is a partnership in a business or a limited liability company, owns 10% or more of stock in a business, or is a director of a corporation or limited liability corporation, then the district is prohibited from doing business with the business that either the board member or the board member's spouse or the board member's dependent child is associated, unless there is bidding and the board member's or spouse, or I won't go through the list again, is the lowest bid. So it is disruptive to some business owners when they serve on the board because their relationship with the district changes.
All right, so there are a number of laws that do come into play with school board candidates, Kelly, and so if candidates during the campaign have questions about any of these issues, we're certainly a resource for that, aren't we?
We certainly are. You can call our 800 number, 1-800-221-MSBA, and the Missouri Ethics Commission is also available to answer questions, and their number is 800-392-8660.
Kelly Hopkins and Mike Reed, thanks a lot for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we thank you for joining us on this segment of our School Board Candidate video series.